Welcome to Psychologist Talks. On today's episode, I want to make a really brief episode more explicitly focused on why therapeutic framing, is particularly essential when doing personality work. Now, I have several episodes on this. I talk about framing in general. I'll have probably a link down in the description. But I also have kind of sub episodes where I kind of talk about it within treatment focused episodes on particular personality disorders. You'll hear me mention framing over and over again ad nauseum, and I think for a particular reason. Now, the spoiler alert on my framing episode is I think this is universally beneficial for everyone, especially if one considers you're not always going to know you're entering into personality work until it's, I'm going to overstate this slightly, quote unquote, too late. Now, nothing is ever too late per se, unless the client prematurely exits treatment, which is a thing with personality work. When the defense is confronted, even when everything seems like it's going great, all of a sudden they disappear on you. I'm not saying framing magically solves this, but it is the one non-redeemable situation which it can mitigate. There are plenty of times where a conflict comes to head and it's like, oh, there's that thing, and then we can retroactively frame. But again, it is wiser, if not more beneficial, just to frame proactively. In that way, it is there waiting for you should conflict come up. And heaven forbid, conflict can come up outside of personality issues. Anyway, why is it so essential to personality work? Well, the nature of personality-related issues, even the more neurotically kind of milder versions of them, is that the defense system, even if it is unhealthy, even if it does not help and it causes harm to the person, is to keep the defense alive at all costs. Now, people without, typically, not everybody, but people without more significant or even milder personality issues, you shine a light on something that they are not quite as consciously aware of. They can't unsee that, and they go, oh shoot, what do I need to do with that? How do I incorporate? How do I change, right? They do something the minute you shine a light on something that was once unseen, or at least only felt or suspected, but never fully reckoned with, right? But that's not how personality issues work. Personality issues are waiting for any light to be shined on it, and it's either waiting there with two big middle fingers looking straight at you and say you're wrong, or it's going to bolt and try to hide itself or obscure itself or rationalize itself in some sort of way. And this is where more passive providers routinely fail people with personality issues, because they'll shine a light on something once. Well, friend therapists and validation therapists, maybe not at all, but others will shine a light on it once and the patient will respond and they're like, well, the client always knows best. I'm going to back off. And sometimes there's wisdom to that, but I can guarantee you with personality issues, you've just fallen prey to the problem, and it'll resurface itself 3 months, 6 months from now, but now you're burning time. You're not actually being effective anymore, and you're failing the person with this personality issue because you don't press a little bit more and go, are we sure about that? Now that requires confrontation. And this is why initial framing is so very powerful, and the ongoing adherence and nurturing of the frame thereafter. It says, what happens and how are we going to navigate me poking and prodding you? Because again, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Now, I can more easily say that because I do that with everybody. I'm always kind of curiously like, what's that about? Hey, I noticed this. What's this? Just kind of always curious and poking and prodding and leaning into potentially uncomfortable stuff. So the universal frame works regardless of personality issues. But very specific and unique and important to personality issues is like, yeah, but what happens if we don't agree? What happens if I rub you the wrong way? What happens if I confront you in a way that makes you feel really uncomfortable? How are we going to navigate that? Can you come back to the frame? Can you come back to this space and we can collaboratively process this, right? This is not the provider in a position of all knowing. It's just like, hey, I'm supposed to be a barometer. I'm supposed to challenge and confront you. How are we going to navigate this? And that is taking ownership. It could be uniquely a rupture between you and I that does not replicate itself outside the therapeutic space, and we need to reckon with that and repair the best we can so we can move on. And or it could very well, as it often is the case with personality issues, particularly the more severe ones, is it could very well replicate itself outside this room. That this very problem, how you're managing this reflection, this insight, potential insight, this sort of experience is not unique to you and I. And if anything, that allows us to narrow even more focus on it and explore it in a rich, kind of live or quote unquote in vivo way that is essential for the healing process. So that's kind of my sell on it, is if you want to do personality work and you don't believe in framing, then I would challenge you and say you need to get good at framing. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, in my opinion. You gotta find a way to frame. Or if you don't like the kind of more psychodynamic-y terminology, you've got to create sort of a sense of expectations for what personality work looks like and what is required of it for the client or patient to grow, or if you are the client consumer listening, for you to grow. That what is painful and challenging might be most essential for you. So, again, you can find smatterings of this elsewhere, but hopefully this really brief episode has been helpful. And as always, I thank you for listening and or watching, and stay curious.